Hey, if you're into classic rock, this video is for you. And we're going to try something a little bit different that we haven't done before. And because this is the time of year when all the concerts start getting announced. And because this channel, we really started this thing in earnest just a few months ago. We've never gone through this period together as a channel.
Yeah.
And we thought it'd be fun to just start listing off some of these and just kind of talk about what's coming through, see what you guys think about it, and maybe just share a few of our thoughts as we, because I actually haven't seen this list yet, so I don't know all the bands that are going
and that's
through.
what makes it kind of fun, because we're going to get your initial reaction, because some of these bands that are out there that are touring are either doing something cool or getting back together, and we just kind of want to know, because obviously it's the time of year where summer festivals and all that kind of stuff is coming out. So the first thing I saw was, Metallica. They have been touring, but they're doing something kind of cool that I thought was like, oh, that's all right. They're actually doing a kind of co-marketing with, I want to say it's like the Red Cross. So they're doing like a blood drive. So if you go to it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you would think, back in the 80s, you weren't associating Ride the Lightning with, the American Red Cross or Master of Puppets. I mean, it makes it kind of funny.
It's the whole thing. It's always funny when you realize that the people that were the rockers, the bands that were all the evil people that the parents hated and all that stuff. Well, now all of them are in charge of everything, and we're the adults, and not just the adults, but the grandparents.
In some cases, yes.
And then you think, okay, well now somebody's got to be responsible for the Red Cross, right?
Right. Well, Metallica's stepping up, and I think that's
cool.
kind of cool,
great.
right? So if you
really
go,
cool.
I don't know if they're actually doing blood drives at their concerts, but I thought that's a pretty cool tie-in.
Yeah.
I mean, just if you go to the Metallica concert and you see American Red Cross, if you haven't donated blood or whatever, I think they're just trying to put the message out and kind of cross-marketing. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
Another thing I saw on the news was the Sex Pistols are going to be touring, which... I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I did hear, I saw somewhere that Johnny Rotten, I did see a news thing that he said something like, I'm not going to play with those guys again or something. Yeah. I did see something. I didn't know that they were touring. Well, they announced a tour. How many people, I mean, the Sex Pistols came out when we were like in grade school.
Yeah, and it's funny that the mileage that those guys got out of such a small career. Because they barely, it's like they were on the scene and then they were gone. Then still to this day, everybody remembers them.
Right. And remind the Bullocks.
Yeah, and here we are, 50 some odd years later. Yeah, I mean,
Anarchy in the UK. I mean, you're naming off the
classic
songs,
tunes that we still remember, that have been redone. I mean, Megadeth redid. I mean, actually, there's been lots of people that have redone those songs. And interestingly, I get interested in them for a very different reason than a lot of people do. And it's Steve Jones, but not for the reason a lot of other people get into Steve Jones, because Steve Jones was the guy that got together with Andy Taylor and put out Andy Taylor's solo album Thunder, which is one of my favorite albums from the 80s. And so I became kind of interested in Steve Jones simply for that reason.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in Steve Jones just because of that tie-in.
So Steve Jones has put this band together, which, I couldn't tell you. I mean, we know Johnny Rotten, Steve Jones, Sid Vicious. Obviously, Sid's not with us.
Yeah.
Right? The whole Sid and Nancy movie and all that. Johnny Rotten said, no, I'm not touring with those guys. I'm sure he said it in more colorful fashion than
that.
As
he does.
And so you got Steve Jones. So it's like, we were just talking about this before we started filming, is I just went and saw Kansas, and it's got one original member.
Yeah.
And it makes it kind of weird. It's cool to hear the music live, but, I mean, even the original member from Kansas, as great as he played, and his tone was great, dude, the guy's old.
And here's the thing. There are certain bands...
And I'm not knocking them, by the way.
Oh, I understand that. But there are certain bands that are kind of like the faceless bands that the audience would never know. Like Kansas is a great example of that. You would just I mean, how many people could pick out Steve Walsh in a lineup? or Elefante in a lineup. I mean, I have lots of their albums. I couldn't, I mean, like today I couldn't, but it would be noteworthy to me if they weren't there. But most people wouldn't even
and
know.
To say, like, so for Kansas, like all the people that played sounded great. I mean, they were amazing
because Kansas was
and I've never heard so many solos from every instrumental player in a 90-minute set. Yeah. Like, it was crazy.
Well, their music was just this epic, it was incredible.
Epic. It was great.
Yeah.
And they played Dust in the Wind and all that. But going back to the Sex Pistols, would you want to go see?
That's a different thing because they aren't interchangeable. Like Correct. Kansas does have that faceless band thing where the Sex Pistols do not.
Yeah.
Because you know the name Johnny Rotten.
So, yeah.
And you'd go, okay, then it'd be a little bit like, well, anyway, yes.
Yeah.
So that one, so the Sex Pistols, I'm interested in the Sex Pistols simply because of Steve Jones, but I don't know that I'm interested in seeing the Sex Pistols.
Right.
If it's not at least those two guys.
So if you're putting money down on going, you're saying...
No, I probably wouldn't
do that.
No.
All right. A lot of 80s bands have announced that they're going to be out and going. And we'll just go down the list, and you can tell me you'd see him or not see him. Let's go down that. So we'll tear them. So
and I'll try not to qualify it too much.
All right. It's okay. Rick Springfield. Would you go see Rick Springfield?
For the right price.
Okay.
I used to love Rick Springfield in the 80s. He actually had several hits, and not just Jesse's Girl.
No, he's good.
But I don't know. I mean, I've known people that have gone and seen him in concert, and they say he's a ton of fun.
He's awesome.
But for the right price, I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So
if he's playing here nearby, you'd be like, okay. My wife would love me to take her to see Rick Springfield, which now that I say that, I bet I need to look those tickets up. Let you know how much they are.
Is this Vegas? Probably.
I don't know.
You don't know. They're just going on tour.
He's going on tour.
He'll probably be in Vegas. Though.
Probably, right? Yeah. Bryan Adams.
Okay. I would probably like to go see him. I saw him back in the 80s
at his peak.
I think it was the Reckless tour. The Hooters opened up.
He was huge.
I used to do. I loved Bryan Adams. When I discovered Bryan Adams on Cuts Like a Knife.
Sure.
I went and bought I think he has 2 albums previous, bought those, and then bought like the next several albums after that because I just loved the guy. He's a great songwriter. He's actually good in person. He's got a great voice. So again, for the right price. Yeah, there's some bands that you could get that price pretty high.
Let's take the money equation out of it.
I'd be interested.
Interested?
I would be interested in seeing Bryan Adams.
All right. Okay. Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
A maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Def Leppard. We saw Def Leppard together in the round back in the 80s for
this one will probably
Hysteria.
Surprise you. I have no interest at all.
Yeah. I've seen him like a handful of times.
I've seen him several times.
It's like Bryan Adams. It's one thing to see him in the 80s when he's at peaking. Would you want to see him 40 years later, 30 years later?
That's part of it too.
Yeah.
He had enough good songs that if he played all the good stuff, I'd probably want to. Def Leppard, the problem is I've never thought they were hate me. I've never thought they were a good band live. I've seen them a bunch of times, and they play the music really well.
Right.
It's just like it's just.
I feel like they've been touring for.
It just isn't the presentation of it is just not. I don't know. The music's great. But I just don't want to. I'm not interested in seeing them again.
All right. Another 80s band, huge 80s band, a little outside of our normal realm, is Duran Duran. They are going on tour in Europe. You'd have to go to Europe to go see them.
Yeah.
Would you want to see Duran
Sadly,
Duran?
Andy Taylor won't be with them because I love Andy Taylor. Because I don't think he's played with them in quite a while.
I don't think so.
But I think the other 4 guys I think they're still together. And I'd rather see them than Def Leppard.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Right.
I would go see Duran Duran before that. Look, they had great tunes. They had great tunes back in the 80s. And then when they did their comeback, I can't remember what it's called, but it had Ordinary World on it.
Oh no, Duran Duran.
They had some great tunes.
They got some good songs. I was kind of super anti Duran Duran in the early 80s just because it was like...
On principle.
Yeah.
I didn't want to like them on principle.
Right.
But then you go back and look at that and you go, you know what, that video for Hungry Like the Wolf, these guys were good.
Yeah.
They were a tight band.
Yeah.
And
a lot of good stuff. Actually, there is a really cool Duran Duran documentary that just came out not too long ago. I can't tell you what streaming service it's on, but I did end up watching it, and I was like, kind of like what you just said. Man, they had a lot more good songs than a lot of the bands.
And then those
that I'm
other
like
tunes.
Who
do you love when you come undone? And then there's an ordinary world. Dude.
And those are later tunes, in their career.
Those were 10 years after they hit. Yeah. It was some good stuff.
All right. So moving on to the next kind of big in the 80s was Pat Benatar. And she's touring with her husband, who's been, I think, seen something when they announced this that they're like been married for 35 years or something like that. But they're touring, doing all their stuff. I mean, they've been bandmates and apparently husband and wife for a while.
For a long
Would you go see Pat
time.
Benatar?
So
Heartbreaker.
Okay.
You know, hit me with your best shot.
She doesn't have enough good and we are young, honey, too hard, and we stand.
Love is a Battlefield.
Oh my gosh, that was great stuff. Okay, I would love to go see her, and probably several, and Rick Springfield. Let me qualify these real quick. If, and I'm dead serious about this, you make the concert 20 minutes. I'll still pay the full price. I don't care. Give me the songs that are good, that everybody likes. Don't make me sit there for 90 minutes. Give me the stuff. Pat Benatar, give me the 5 songs that everybody wants to hear, and I can go home and go to bed, and I will be thrilled. I will love the concert.
You might get a lot of heat
if you
for
make
that.
me sit around for 90 minutes listening to the stuff that I don't know that anybody really wants to hear, but you feel like you have to play for 90 minutes. So I would go see any of these people full price if we could be in and out of there in 20 minutes.
Just give me your hits.
Yeah, I'm serious, man. I'm dead serious. That'd be the ultimate concert. You go see Rick Springfield, and it's like, dude, lay it on me.
That's a good thing.
Give me the best stuff. I'm out of here.
Is that a good thing for you guys?
I get bored in concerts.
Yeah. We've been to a lot of concerts, and I get what you're saying. So do you, as a concert goer, this is for you guys to chime in, do you side with Robert John here and be like, just give me your hits and get me out. I'm good. I want to hear the best stuff, front to back.
Knock me over. And knock my socks off in 20, 25 minutes.
And done.
And I'm out of here, and I'm thrilled. And we'll go out to eat.
Don't make me sit through all the deep cuts that you like, but not necessarily were hits. Okay. What do you guys think? I mean, that's...
And I'd pay full... I'd pay more. I would pay more for that ticket than full price.
What about, so here's a double bill. Kind of angsty double bill is you got Billy Idol and Joan Jett apparently touring together this summer.
Billy Idol, 100% I'd go see Billy Idol. Going back to the 80s, still one of my top favorite concerts ever was going to see Billy Idol. It was, to this day, I look back at and think that was one of the best concerts I ever went to.
That's great.
So I would love, and I never expect any of these people are going to be what they were in the 80s.
No, I mean.
But he was, he comes from the punk rock world, but he was I don't know how else to put it, but a class act.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just classy. It was so good.
I think having Joan Jett open for him is even, that's kind of like angsty punky royalty right there, right?
Yeah.
So,
and similarly, Joan Jett, get up, play your 2 songs, and then you can go. And dude, I will be like this. I will be screaming.
How many people are screaming at the screen right now, saying, "What are you nuts?" All right, no, but it's good. I mean, maybe
I love Billy Idol.
All right.
I'd be
show
up
late, hit the 2 songs from Joan Jett, and then be like, "Bring on Billy."
They're going to play the good stuff in the encore, so I'm just going to go for the encore, and then.
Another band that just announced this week that they're going to be touring is Blink 182.
I have zero interest in seeing them.
You don't want to see them?
No. I've heard a couple of their tunes that are okay, but I don't know. I'm not into it.
Another band that's playing...
Would you go see Blink 182?
Probably not.
Okay.
That's a good counterpoint. Thanks for turning that on.
Well, it's a little bit after our time, too.
Yeah, it is. But they did have some
I heard,
strong radio
and they're
songs.
Okay.
But I think I'd be, just to your point, do I want to sit through 90 minutes of Blink-182? Maybe not. That's true. They don't have I know they have a few albums out, but I don't have the deep history.
No, I don't
to go see them.
I'm an old man. And even though they're just a generation or so away from that, still I don't.
Yeah, I got that. OMD, Oscar. Would you go see? That's definitely more of a 80s new. 80s.
If you leave, don't leave now. Please don't leave
I'm impressed
away.
that you've got this.
I remember OMD,
yeah.
but I don't. Did they ever have a song besides that one?
No.
It was a little bit like Gary Newman. He did Cars, and then 8 albums more, and then it's like, but Cars.
I couldn't tell you one song from the other 8.
So
the last one that I have kind of written down is Slayer.
hang on just a second, this will be really quick. With hundreds of videos on our channel now, we've made playlists to make it easy for you to find whatever the thing is that you're interested in. We have a playlist with all of our Rush videos, Kiss, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen. We have categories like 80s metal and even our popular magazine flip-throughs, where we go through page by page with Circus Magazine, Hit Parader, and others, all in 4K resolution. You'll find it all organized and ready to explore. Just click the playlist tab on our channel's homepage. All right, back to the video.
Which is also, I mean, they're kind of a heavier band, but they're playing a few songs in Europe and playing, I think, a show in Canada, in like Quebec, and then 2 shows in the U.S. this year with, I think, one in like Louisville, Kentucky, and then their big show with like a bunch of other artists in Hershey Park, in like Pennsylvania somewhere.
No kidding, in Hershey, Pennsylvania, the home of
Hershey chocolates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know if it's the naming of the or the stadium or whatever it is, but I just read that, and they're like, "You're gonna be there." You know, they're gonna pull out all the stops and do all that.
Would you go see Slayer? Would you be interested in that?
You know, I kind of listened to them for a little while, and it was just kind of. I have my moments when I'm like, okay, I'm pretty angry, and this fits that bill, but I'm more calm, cool, and collected. So I'm not usually that angsty, you know. But some of their stuff's pretty good. I mean, but it's not what I'd kind of turn to. I've never been to a show of theirs, so I think part of me would be like, man, that would be kind of cool. But you know, I don't feel like.
Do you remember when they did the Big Four?
Yes.
And they broadcast it all over the world in different theaters. Did you go to that?
No.
I did. So, okay, it was Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, Metallica.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting in the theater, and Anthrax plays. I love Anthrax.
Yeah.
They're cool. I can't remember. I think it was Slayer and then Megadeth, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the order for sure.
Okay.
But here's the funny thing. They had that music turned up so loud in that theater. When Slayer started playing, I made it through about 1.5 songs, and I went outside and waited until Megadeth or whoever was next. I actually had to leave. That's how old I am. I seriously, I'm like, I'm actually walking out of this theater because it's too dang loud. Whoa. And what kind of sick, sorry person am I?
What kind of rocker are you?
Now, here's what's funny about it, though. And I didn't listen to Slayer a lot back then, and so I was just kind of really turned off. Like, I hate this crap. This is terrible. Well, what's funny is as the years have progressed, and I've been exposed to them actually in better circumstances, I've kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like this stuff.
Yeah.
So but you know, again, when you put that in, I don't know when the Big Four came out, but I'm a father with some little kids. And I'm in a theater. I didn't bring my kids, but I mean, the mindset.
You're in a different place.
I'm in a different part of my life, and I just had and that night with Slayer in that theater with that noise. I was like, dude, I can't believe this, but I can't handle this, and I'm walking out of this place and coming back later. And so it was only Slayer. I made it through the others, but interestingly, the older I've gotten, the more I've appreciated Slayer. Does that sound totally messed up?
Well, I think maybe it's your initial exposure to them because you hadn't heard them really too much before.
Not really. I knew who they were.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have identified. I can't even think of the singer's name. I could have picked him out in a crowd probably.
Right.
But that's about it.
No, but I think that's part of it. You know, is the fact that maybe you have had your first initial really, here I got a chance to see him live, and you had that experience that, you know, later on. I mean, maybe that's why you have like this delayed appreciation or whatever. But I think that's kind of our tour update. I mean, that's pretty much everything I've seen, and that's a lot of bands. Other than I missed one, The Cure recently announced that they are going to possibly tour, because it's like their 50th anniversary or something like that. It's kind of shocking that The Cure have been around that long. Robert Smith, I've seen him in a couple pictures and stuff lately. I know we've gone Anthrax, and I'm sorry, not Anthrax, Slayer to The Cure, and Sex Pistols in between and all that.
And you know my feelings about The Cure.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Robert Smith. I got so into them, and when they put out the album Wish, I still think that's the best thing there. But I mean, then I really started to fall in love with them, and then I started backtracking into Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, which is like the first song, The Kiss, on that album. You start realizing this band is great, and I've seen The Cure many times. So that one, for sure, I would go see them. And what a lot of people don't appreciate about them, and you realize this when you see them in concert, is that they're almost a jam band. I mean, they will, on so many of these things, because a lot of the Cure music does have this droning. Because, again, listen to The Kiss. If you've never listened to the song The Kiss, you don't have to like new wave type music to like that song. It is a heavy, obnoxious, rockin', you know the song I'm talking about. Yes. Kiss me, kiss me, gunk, gunk. I mean, it's killer. But a lot of their music has that kind of thing where it's just this droning thing, and then Robert Smith is playing these little like lead kind of things, and then they'd get into these little hooky elements and the keyboards and the bass is playing that thumping.
A lot of layers to their music.
Yeah, and so they'll have songs that'll go on like a jam band for 10, 15 minutes, and it kind of like hypnotizing. So, but people, you know, you pigeonhole them into this kind of British new wave, and you don't realize actually they're not really like that. And especially if you see them in concert, they take you on this journey where the music just kind of goes through these really interesting
like
movements. Yeah, and you feel it grow and control, and Robert Smith just has this presence about him. He doesn't have what he had.
Right.
I'll wrap this up with one story. When I saw them on the tour for Wish, it was the most interesting thing I've ever seen at a concert. Did I ever talk to you about this?
I don't think so.
So you remember The Cure, like every teenage girl, you know, they put on the thick eyeliner and it was just in the hair.
Yeah, it was part of the look.
It was all that gothy kind of thing, right? And his hair was just whatever.
Yeah.
So every girl in the world that loved that kind of
goth
whatever thing, they loved Robert Smith. I mean, he was their god.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I'm talking about.
Misunderstood, angsty.
Yes.
I'm like,
yes.
I'm kind of down.
That's exactly it. He was the king of that. He was
so sad.
He was the king of that. Okay.
Feeling kind of down.
So, dude, this was the craziest thing ever in any concert. I've never seen anything like this before or since.
All right.
So,
we're talking concerts, so bring it.
So I go see The Cure. The lights go down, and then I can't remember how it goes, but the very first song, it's called Enter, I think, on the first song on Wish. And they come out on stage, and they start playing it, and it's just this kind of droning thing, okay? And you hear the music starting, the lights, and they have the lights all weird and like the setup. It was just so Cure, the way they did this. And then as the music's droning, you see Robert Smith walk out on stage, and he's kind of pigeon-toed, and he kind of waddles when he walks, and he's kind of pigeon-toed, and the way he plays his guitar, he holds it because he's almost always playing the guitar on concert. Only like once will he ever just hold the microphone. It's always this, and he kind of plays it like this, and so he walks out on stage. He's got his pigeon-toed, and as soon as you see him, it's like the crowd, the noise. Okay, as soon as you see
icon,
Robert Smith. Sure. Okay, now he walks out, and he stands in front of the microphone, and then it comes time for him to start singing. He walks up to the mic, and his unique voice.
Right.
The first like note comes out of his voice, and you can no longer hear music because of the screaming. I've never, ever heard a crowd get so loud that you could, the band, it was like there was no band playing. It was the craziest thing. I've never, but I mean, as soon as that voice, and you're just saying like, dude, I can't even hear the band because everybody's screaming so much.
It's so iconic.
Yeah, and so then about 10, 15 seconds later, it calms down. He finishes the verse. He walks back, playing his guitar. Next verse comes up for him to start singing, walks up to the microphone, the note comes out of his mouth.
And the crowd
couldn't hear the band again. I mean, I've seen so many concerts. I've seen loud concerts. I've seen loud audiences, all the other stuff. I've never seen a crowd react to an individual and to a person like that was that night. And I had almost a religious experience just because I loved The Cure so much. I mean, every song was incredible. And so then that was the first time I ever saw them. And I've seen them since, and they've never been as good as they were that night because they get older and older and whatever. But and the audience gets older and they're no longer teenagers. Now they're all women with kids. You know, the formerly misunderstood girls now have an 8-year-old kid. Yeah. But still, they're, and at least the last time I saw them, which is probably, I'm going to say now 10, 15 years ago, now that I think about it. Well, no, yeah, it would have been about 9 years ago, I think would have been the last time I saw them, 8 or 9 years ago. They were excellent. Just excellent. I would love to go see The Cure again. They are a spectacular band. Robert Smith is awesome. And The Cure is Robert Smith and a bunch of guys. Yeah. That is The Cure. Yeah. And whoever happens to be on the stage.
A turnstile of people. Know your song, know your parts.
Poor old, what's his name, Thompson was cool at one point. I can't remember the original, Tolhurst. He was the original drummer, and then he became the bass player, keyboardist, you know. Yeah. So, but a couple of them I know the names, but for the most part, it's Robert Smith and the guys.
Right.
So.
Oh, he is the iconic one, but I mean, great story. Great story about The Cure there.
So,
you know, one of the things, you know, we're trying something new. So bringing up all this tour stuff and concert experiences. Have you ever had a concert experience like Robert John did with The Cure, where you just kind of like almost had a religious experience? Yeah. And who are you going to go see this summer?
Yes.
Are you going to go see anybody?
And where?
Yeah. And who do you want to see? Or who would you be like, dude, I would not pay anything to go see those guys? You know, for me, a lot of these artists, I think a lot of it would depend on the venue, because I would go see, I understand what you're saying. I don't want to go to some stadium or a big arena, which I don't know if anybody, or some of these, depending what they're doing, but I think I'd see them in, like, the smaller the venue, the better I think it would be for some of these, because I think it's not that they don't command a bigger audience, but I think it would be cooler to see him in a smaller place.
So I love Depeche Mode too, and I saw Dave Gahan solo playing some Depeche Mode stuff in a place that holds about 1,000 people, and it was really. I walked right next to the stage, like he was like 5 feet away from me, and weirdly, yeah, it was super entertaining and interesting at that point when you see them in these different. So yeah, that's actually a really good point. It would depend on how much it costs, and it would depend on where it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be just in the back or, you know, see them on stage this big and I'm a million miles away. But, yeah, I mean, just kind of interesting how many bands are out there. And it's exciting for the music, you know, on the radio and stuff like that. I mean, we're not getting too, you know, off track here or outside our lane too much. But there's a lot of rock bands. I mean, everybody I mentioned, are pop music or 80s music or rock bands that are out there touring. Want to know who you guys are thinking and what you're seeing. And, this one is all about you and your comments more so than anything. We're just kind of providing the news of who's going to be touring out there. So let us know. I'm interested.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know your feedback. And also, any of these bands, if you saw them back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it can be a very different experience. And what was your experience like seeing them in the day and then seeing them 30 years later?
Right.
In many cases. And what was that like? Because
that's a really good point.
It can be jarring And sometimes it can be great. You know, it just kind of depends. So we'd love, that's the kind of thing. We'd really love to hear that stuff too. So
it's great to see live music. I mean, that's one of the things I think, you know, I know it's been like 5 years since COVID and all that, but I mean, that sucked when there was nobody interacting. It's great to see the live music scene kind of coming back and people, you know, going out there and checking bands out.
Indeed. Yeah. Hey, if you're not following the channel already, please follow that channel and hit that like button. And if you like hearing videos like this, these different kind of things, we're talking about news, things that's happening in that's happening right now, and concerts and things like that, let us know in the comments if we should do more of this type of video, because we really appreciate that feedback. It helps us decide the different kind of things that we're going to do on this channel. So anyway, with that, have yourself a fantastic day.